Na 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 da 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 da.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, this is our book spotlight for May. This will be the first Tuesday in May, and because May is got May the 4th in it, there is May the 4th, which is usually all about Star Wars, because it's May the 4th be with you. But, like I have mentioned in the other videos that you might or might not have seen, there is going to be a Star Wars bingo in the activity bag for the month of May and in the book club bag for the month. So in each of these there will be this Star Wars bingo, and if you get bingo you'll be entered to win a prize. But these things will be featured in some of our videos. Somewhere in the background you're liable to see Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that's there, you know, the X-Wing fighters, you know, anything like that might be on there in these 3 videos. So you might watch these 3 videos and get you a bingo out of it. I don't know what's on each of the individual bingo sheets, but so for the book spotlight for the month of May, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, A Crash of Fate by Zoraida Cordova. I don't know if I said her name right, but this book is located in our young adult section. And the back cover says, "Ow!" Jules exclaimed as his head snapped back. He cradled his nose with his hand, blood flowing down his lips and filling his mouth with a metallic tang. Despite the sharp pain blooming across his eyes, he reached blindly for a rag. His hand closed around the nearest piece of cloth on a counter and used it to stop the gushing. "I am so sorry," said the girl who sucker punched him. At once, Jules registered something. He knew this girl. His mind raced through memories, trying to place her high cheekbones and pointed chin. Looking at her made the pain around his tender, most likely broken septum hurt just a little bit less. The door slid shut behind her, and the morning breeze rustled her black hair, which reminded Jules of the silk ribbons dogs imported from the tropical moon of Linus House? I don't know. So, I didn't finish the back cover, did I? The girl tilted her head to the side and narrowed her stare. He was sure she was trying to remember him too, or assessing the damage. When she brushed her hair back, her jacket sleeve slid up and he noted the scars above her wrist. They stood out quartz white on her golden skin. Jules could see her then, a faded memory from so long before. He'd nearly buried it. A girl with fearless eyes, in a dirty dress at the top of a cliff. He went back and forth between convincing himself that it couldn't be her and being certain that it was. As a little boy, he'd stared at the sky in hopes of seeing the arc of her family ship, but it had never come back. He worked his lips and mind into forming words and settled for a single one. Izzy and Jules were childhood best friends, climbing the spires of Batuu. Oh look, Batuu's back. Inventing silly games and dreaming of adventures they would share one day. Then Izzy's family left abruptly, without even a chance to say goodbye. Izzy's life became one of constant motion, from one world to the next until her parents were killed and she became a low-level smuggler to make ends meet. Jules remained on Batuu, eventually becoming a farmer like his father, but always yearning for something more. Now, 13 years after she has left, Izzy has returned to Batuu. She'd been hired to deliver a mysterious parcel, and she just wants to finish the job and get gone. But upon arrival at Black Spire Outpost, she runs smack into the one person who still means something to her after all this time, Jules. And the attraction between them is instant and overwhelming. Yet despite Jules seeming to be everything she's ever needed, Izzy hesitates. How can she drag such a good-hearted man into the perilous life she's chosen? Jules has been unsure what his future holds. And now all he knows for certain is that he wants to be with Izzy. How can he convince her to take a chance on someone who's never left the safety of his own homeworld? When Izzy's job goes wrong, the 2 childhood friends find themselves on the run, and all their secrets will be revealed as they fight to stay alive. Prologue, and then the first 5 paragraphs. The girl climbed the rock face higher and higher. She scraped her knee only once, and the cut had already begun to scab over as they neared the top. Apparently it was a really tall rock. The frilly dress she wore was covered in sweat and dirt. Her father would be angry with her. He'd sewn in extra panels only the day before because she'd had another growth spurt practically overnight. "Come on, Jules," she shouted. "We're almost there." "No fair, Izzy," the boy called back. Loose pebbles fell over his head, and though he'd convinced himself that he wasn't afraid of heights, he made the mistake of looking down, only for a moment. His palms were sweating and his belly flip-flopped from the fear of falling. If he wanted to fly, he'd have to get over his fears. And to do what he needed to do, he needed to conquer them. The trouble was, it was easier to think rather than do. And the doing was proving rather difficult. When the boy looked back up, sunlight beamed in his eyes, but he could still see the girl was already a meter or two ahead. He grunted and pushed himself to climb faster. "Your limbs are longer. That's practically cheating." "Practically, but not exactly," she said. Izzy held on to the nooks and crannies in the jagged rock. I read that wrong. No, it actually says the suns beat overhead. Okay. The suns beat overhead, relentless during the dry season. Not a single cloud provided shade, but they covered their heads with the scarves Jules' mother's had dyed bright blue only the previous week. Jules had helped, and his fingers were still stained from accidentally sticking his hands into the dye buckets. Blue and purple freckles dotted his golden brown forearms like constellations. Using a spire like a ladder to get to a cliff shelf, the boy and girl threw themselves on their backs, victorious smiles painted on their faces. So far away from the Black Spire outpost, it felt like the whole world was laid out just for the two of them. They could scream as loud as they wanted and not be reprimanded. So that is what our book spotlight for the month of May is. And if you're interested in checking that out, it's on the shelves under COR. And my outfit today may not look very Star Warsy, but as I mentioned in the book club video, I mentioned that a Disney bounding thing, like if a person goes to Disney and wants to dress as a character, they can't exactly wear like a costume. They have to do something that is clothing inspired. So when I went on Pinterest, I found a little bit of orange shirts and white skirts to represent BB-8. Me and Sherilyn like BB-8.
Yes.
So here's my BB-8, and that's all for today. Bye. And Kenobi. I don't know why I left the one out. It's his nickname. Anyways,